What if I told you that most people who try to budget actually become worse with money? Not because they're lazy, not because they're irresponsible, but because the system they're using is quietly designed to fail them. Think about this. Millions of people download budgeting apps. They create spreadsheets. They write down every coffee, every snack, every taxi ride. They promise themselves this month will be different. And yet, by the third week, the budget collapses. The money disappears. The guilt arrives. And the cycle starts again. So here's the mystery we're solving today. Why do complicated budgets fail? Well, one extremely simple rule, the 50-30-20th rule, continues to work for millions of people across income levels, countries, and lifestyles. Is it just another internet trend? Or is there something deeper happening, something rooted in human psychology, economic pressure, and the hidden structure of modern money? By the end of this video, you won't just understand the 50-30-20 rule, you'll understand why it works, where it came from, what broke the old budgeting systems, and how this simple framework quietly reshaped personal finance without most people noticing. But first, we need to rewind. Before the 50-30-20 rule existed, budgeting looked very different. Go back a few decades. Most households didn't track spending with apps. They didn't categorize transactions. They didn't optimize subscription spending. Instead, money followed a much simpler rhythm. You've earned income. You've paid necessities. You've saved whatever remained. But something changed. As economies grew, financial products exploded. Credit cards became normal. Installment payments became invisible. Buy no pallida replaced waiting. Advertising learned how to hijack attention and desire. Suddenly, money stopped being physical. It became digital, abstract, and emotionally disconnected. At the same time, financial advice became more complex. Experts began telling people to track dozens of spending categories, follow strict percentage breakdowns, optimize investment portfolios, build emergency funds, sinking funds, vacation funds, retirement funds, side funds for the average person. It became overwhelming. Here's the hidden problem. The financial system became complex faster than human behavior could adapt. People weren't failing budgeting. Budgeting was failing people, and this pressure was building quietly until one idea reframed everything. The 50-30-20 rule didn't start as a viral TikTok hack. It came from serious economic research. In the early 2000s, a Harvard bankruptcy expert named Elizabeth Warren was studying something disturbing. Millions of middle-class families weren't going bankrupt because they were reckless. They were collapsing because housing costs were rising. Healthcare expenses were exploding. Education debt was increasing. Income growth wasn't keeping up. Even financially responsible households were drowning. Warren and her daughter Amelia Warren, Tiagi, analyzed spending patterns and noticed something powerful. Despite different lifestyles and income levels, successful households followed a similar pattern even without realizing it. They weren't micromanaging every dollar. They were balancing three core forces. 1. Survival. 2. Lifestyle. 3. Future security. This observation eventually turned into a framework, not a spreadsheet, not a complicated formula, a simple behavioral rule. 50% for needs, 30% for wants, 20% for savings and debt reduction. At first, it wasn't marketed as a budget hack. It was presented as a financial stability guideline, a way to prevent collapse without forcing extreme sacrifice. But here's what made it revolutionary. It didn't fight human psychology. It worked with it. Once the rule entered mainstream financial education, something unexpected happened. People actually stuck with it. Why? Because it removed the most dangerous budgeting emotion, constant restriction. Traditional budgets say, no eating out, no entertainment, no small pleasures. The human brain hates that. Restriction creates rebellion. But the 50-30-20 rule does something smarter. It says, yes, you must protect survival. Yes, you must build the future. But you're also allowed to live today. That 30% category wants isn't a mistake. It's a pressure release valve. Psychologically, it prevents burnout. Financially, it prevents emotional overspending later. And here's the key turning point. As wages stagnated and inflation rose, people stopped being able to save by accident. They had to save on purpose. The rule gave structure without complexity, which is exactly what modern money chaos needed. But then, something broke. As the rule spread globally, cracks began to appear. Housing prices surged. Rent consumed larger portions of income. Healthcare costs spiked. Fuel, food, utilities climbed year after year. For many people, needs alone crossed 50%. Suddenly the math stopped working. People began saying, "This rule is unrealistic. It doesn't apply anymore. It's outdated." But here's the uncomfortable truth. The rule didn't break. The economy changed. The system shifted costs onto individuals while wages lagged behind. And that exposed a deeper problem, one that most budgeting advice avoids discussing. Modern financial stress is not just about personal discipline, it's about structural pressure, which is why blindly following any rule without understanding its logic can backfire. And that leads us to the most misunderstood part of this entire system. Because the real power of the 50/30/20 rule isn't the numbers, it's the principle behind them. And that principle is what we'll uncover next. When the 50/30/20 rule stops being followed, the consequences don't appear immediately. They arrive slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. First, savings shrink. Then emergencies become debt. Then debt becomes stress. Then stress becomes desperation. This pattern repeats across countries and income levels. Here's what usually happens in cause and effect order. When needs rise above safe levels, rent, utilities, food, transport, people don't reduce spending evenly. They cut savings first. That 20% disappears at first. It feels harmless. Just this month, I'll save next month, or catch up later. But later never comes. Because without automatic saving behavior, money always finds another place to go. And that's when the next domino falls. Financial fragility. One medical bill, one job loss, one car repair, and suddenly, credit cards become emergency funds. This is the silent crisis happening in millions of households. Not because people don't earn enough alone, but because their money system has no structure protecting the future. That's exactly what the 20% category was designed to do. Not make you rich, but make you resilient. When people struggle financially, they often try extreme solutions. Let's examine the most common ones. 1. Zero-based budgeting. This method tells you to assign every single dollar a job. On paper, it looks powerful. In real life, it becomes exhausting. Why? Because it demands constant attention, discipline, and emotional control. Most people don't fail because they lack intelligence. They fail because willpower is limited. When life gets busy, stressful, or unpredictable, detailed systems collapse. 2. Extreme frugality. Some people respond to money stress by cutting everything. No entertainment, no eating out, no enjoyment. It works short-term. But psychologically, it creates deprivation, and deprivation creates backlash spending. One emotional shopping day can undo months of sacrifice. 3. Just make more money advice. Yes, increasing income helps, but without structure, higher income often increases lifestyle spending instead of security. That's why people earning double their salary still feel broke. Because money behavior didn't change. The 50/30/20 rule succeeded where others failed because it wasn't about control, it was about balance. And balance is sustainable. Let's expose the hidden engine behind this system. The rule works because it forces 3 financial behaviors at the same time. 1. Boundary protection, 50% needs. It sets a ceiling on survival costs. Not to punish you, but to prevent lifestyle inflation from stealing your future. When rent or car payments creep too high, the rule exposes the danger early. It turns invisible financial risk into visible structure. 2. Psychological permission, 30% once. This category isn't waste, it's emotional sustainability. It allows enjoyment without guilt, and guilt-free spending reduces impulse behavior. People who allow controlled pleasure spend less impulsively than people who forbid themselves everything. That's human psychology, not theory. 3. Automatic future building, 20% saving. This is the most powerful part. Because when savings become non-negotiable, something shifts. Your future self finally gets paid first. Emergency funds grow. Debt shrinks. Investments compound quietly in the background. Over time, this creates financial gravity, money pulling towards stability instead of chaos. Now let's connect this to today's reality. Right now, household debt is at historic highs in many countries. Rent consumes larger income percentages than ever before. Medical expenses and education costs continue rising. Consumer spending is driven by social pressure and digital marketing at the same time. Savings rates are declining. People are surviving month to month. This isn't random. It's the result of a system that encourages consumption while discouraging long-term thinking. And that's where the 50-30-20 rule becomes more than budgeting. It becomes resistance. Resistance against emotional spending. Resistance against lifestyle inflation. Resistance against financial fragility. It's not about perfection, it's about direction. Even moving from 5% savings to 10% starts changing outcomes. Even reducing wants by small percentages creates breathing room. Small shifts compound into massive differences over years. That's the hidden power nobody advertises. Here's the part most videos don't tell you. The 50-30-20 rule is not rigid. It's flexible by design. In high-cost areas, many people use 60-30-10 temporarily, 50-25 when aggressive saving, 55-25-20 when balancing debt payoff. The key is not the exact numbers. The key is maintaining all three categories: survival, lifestyle, future. When one disappears, instability begins. Smart users treat the rule as a compass, not a prison. They adjust based on income, location, life stage, and goals, but they never eliminate savings completely. And that's the difference between surviving and building. Something interesting happens when people follow this system for a few months. Not immediately, not overnight, but gradually. They stop checking their bank balance constantly. They stop feeling panic after spending money. They stop living paycheck to paycheck emotionally even if income is modest. Why? Because structure creates safety. And safety creates confidence. Confidence leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to momentum. Momentum changes financial identity. You stop being bad with money. You become someone who manages money intentionally. That psychological shift is priceless. Let's lock this down with clarity. The best system is not the most advanced. It's the one you'll actually follow. The 50-30-20 rule works because it reduces friction and decision fatigue. Consistency beats perfection. If savings only happen when money is left over, they will never happen. Pay your future first. Even small amounts build financial muscle. Enjoyment is not the enemy of wealth. Uncontrolled consumption is. Balanced spending keeps motivation alive. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you ignore financial structure long enough, the system will force structure on you later. Through debt, through emergencies, through lost opportunities. The question isn't whether money discipline will happen, it's whether you choose it or it chooses you. So here's the question I'll leave you with. If your future self could speak to you right now, would they thank you for your money habits, or warn you to change them before it's too late? Because the 50-30-20 rule isn't about budgeting. It's about deciding who controls your financial future, you or circumstances. If this video changed how you think about money, hit the like button so more people can escape financial chaos. Subscribe if you want deep, honest breakdowns of money systems, saving strategies, and real-world financial psychology. And comment below. Do you currently follow any budgeting rule, or are you starting fresh? Your answer might help someone else take their first step toward control.